All right, so we'll do a little slideshow because there's kind of multiple parts here. What I'm demoing today is what I call Hive Mind. You'll see a lot about that in a moment. But first, we're going to talk about the stack that it's built upon. All right. Or we'll start off with the problems with the internet. So the way that things are right now on the internet, I'm sure a lot of you guys know there are major trust issues. It's hard to figure out who you can and cannot trust on the internet. For starters, anyone can make claims, right? So if you start adding a review system for something, one of the issues you have is that anyone can make a claim. You have no way of really verifying that that claim itself is actually credible. So, we can't discern between humans and bots. Like one thing you see down here, 28 years later, it's Rotten Tomatoes. You always hear about people brigading or kind of mobbing the review process and just kind of spamming it, right? So it leads to data that is low quality. Let's see here. And a lot of those, how would I say it? A lot of those apps they dedicate a lot of resources to fighting those spam sort of ratings, right? So things like Rotten Tomatoes, they'll have things where they have reviews, but then they need a separate type of review for people who are verified. Airbnb does a lot with verifying people's identities. In general, it's a lot of work. Even stuff like Google, they have to dedicate a lot of resources to finding spam accounts and removing their reviews. Another issue that you have is that reputation systems they generally are app specific. So if someone has been reviewed as being trustworthy or good on Airbnb, it doesn't mean that they're going to have a good reputation on Uber or Glassdoor or Amazon or LinkedIn, right? They're all kind of siloed. All these different reviews and ratings, these reputation systems are siloed off. And because there's gaps in the way the reputation works online, that means that bad actors are able to protect themselves, right? They have an escape valve. All they have to do is go to an app or a site that does not have a reputation system that they have a bad reputation on, right? And they get to start off fresh. This has a lot of parallels with what some people call like a low trust society. The internet is a low trust society. You can't really trust people who are on the internet. So what is intuition? So just to give you some background, the way that our stack is built, it's obviously you have Ethereum, right? And based on Ethereum, you can create EVM chains. So Intuition is a project that has created a blockchain as well as smart contracts on that blockchain. It's a layer 3. The smart contract system is essentially it is an on-chain database, and it specifically standardizes the way that users are able to make claims pretty much about anything. We'll go into that in a moment. So anyone can make a claim about anything. And one of the critical factors is that users need money. They need value to stake on their claim in order to give it weight. So this defeats the Sybil attack issue because bots don't have money of their own, right? So here's a little diagram down here. So you can see if you have a claim, for example, Vitalik Buterin is a developer. You can have a bunch of stakers staking on the same claim and in different amounts. So it's different weights. Here's the little Intuition logo. So the basic building block for Intuition claims are what they call atoms. I'll also refer to them as entities at times. So an atom can represent just about anything online. So for example, a person, a URL, a cryptocurrency address, even general concepts. So in each atom has a vault where it can store user stake. Okay. So an example of some atoms would be like an Ethereum address here. So usually that comes in a hex format. It's a simple string. Another simple string you can use is an ENS name. So smilingkylan.eth is my ENS name. You can also use URLs, which is nice. So metamask.io, it can be domains. It can also be anything that can be represented by a URL or a URI, right? The term is universal resource indicator or excuse me, identifier. So that's the standard way that the internet identifies something. So we piggyback on top of that sort of semantic, um, structure, I guess. Let's see here. Also, social media profiles is going to come relevant later. So you have x.com/Elon Musk. So that kind of represents his Twitter profile. Uh, Even more, we have the ability to actually store data on IPFS, and if we have the text string for the atom, if it's an IPFS hash, then we can actually use our indexers to populate that data. So instead of just having this strange hash, we could actually, in our database also, excuse me, our off-chain database, we can also store data off chain, so we can actually have more data. So like you can have a name, nationality, you can have something that's a bit more structured. In general, like I said, you have the actual concepts. So anything that can be represented by a word, essentially. So the word funny, right? That's a concept we understand. Trustworthy is another one that we end up using a lot. Is kind of vague, but you can use it. Is related to might be a relevant one, or has alias is another one that we use. So with those atoms, there's a structure called a triple, and essentially that's how claims are made. So it's split up into three parts. The first, the claim. Let's see here. You have the subject, right? So that's generally who or what the claim is about, or the entity performing the action. The predicate is like the relationship or the verb, and the object is usually a property, or it's someone kind of receiving the action. So some examples here are Vitalik is a developer, right? So you can see how it's split into three there. Or you can have an Ethereum address belongs to the Vitalik.eth. And you'll notice here, you can use this same Vitalik.eth atom as a subject over here and then the object over there. So these atoms are composable. You can compose claims. They're kind of like interchangeable pieces. You also have, okay, an Ethereum address is a scammer, right? A scammer would be kind of the concept. And for each claim, you have a for and against vault. So when you're staking, you can either go into the for vault or the against vault, and that will help give you clarity on whether people agree or disagree with the claim. Obviously, since this is on a blockchain too, that means that any dApp has access to all of the position data. So you can have the breakdown, the distribution of what kind of positions people have. Like, did they stake a lot or they stake a little, and so on. Have I lost anyone yet? Does anyone have any questions at this point? All right, that sounds like a no. If anyone does at some point, just let me know. I want to make sure I'm clear, and just raise your hand. Let's see here. Okay, so when it comes to the actual economics of making a claim, this is really kind of the fun part, especially if you like economics, which if you're in cryptocurrency, then you should be at least familiar with some of this stuff. And there's a lot here. I can't get into quite all of it, but I can kind of give you the gist here. So for a triple, there are small entry and exit fees. So we kind of don't want people doing spam transactions where they stake and unstake and just kind of jam up the network. We do have protocol fees, but in addition to protocol fees, we have, let's see here. It said advise make claims. Excuse me. In addition to protocol fees, we have, I don't know, I guess you could call it a staking fee, right? So let's see here. So the thing is, when you make a deposit on the staking, if you're early, you actually get a small cut of people who came after you of their fees, right? So the cool thing there is you actually get incentivized to stake before anyone, right? Let's see here. So in a way, this kind of like a prediction market, but the claims don't have like a deadline, right? And we're kind of dealing, I guess prediction markets always also kind of deal with opinions. So it's also kind of quote unquote soft data here. And yeah, like I said, they keep on going, right? So it's not like it stops once a game, a football game ends or something like that. Let's see here. So that also means that since people make more money if other people agree with them and agree after them. If you think that, how would I say this? It means that you have incentive to also stake on the side that you think will eventually reach consensus, if that makes sense. Um, so you might think that something is true, but other people are more likely to think the opposite. So there is kind of that this question you have to decide. Okay, well, which side would you actually stake on? Because if you're able to make more money on one side, you are financially incentivized to stake on that side. But the tricky thing is if there is a claim that you think is false, you actually have incentive to stake on the other side, and then prove that the other side is wrong, because then people will stake on your side and you'll start making more fees. You'll make more gains essentially. Um, let's see here. It also means if someone's trying to manipulate the data, a lot of people have staked. Like, so if someone has a bunch of claims about their reputation and how they're not trustworthy, if they were to stake and say, well, no, I am trustworthy, they lose out on opportunity costs. They'll lose a little bit of money compared to if they had staked on the other side. So yeah, let's see. Disprovable claims become opportunities. I kind of mentioned that. So essentially, people are incentivized to be on the side that ultimately will be the truth, and they're incentivized to get there quickly. Um, okay, there's different bonding curves. I'm not going to go too much into that because that's a little bit confusing. Let's see here. So use cases. There's a ton of use cases, and you're going to see some of that in a moment. Decentralized reputation system. That's what Hive Mind is. We'll get into that in a moment. Content moderation. You can have people flag contents, right? Most comments on whatever app can be represented by a URL. And for that reason, it's easy to make claims about a comment, right? We can also use lists. You could have, these are the top rock songs of all time. And if you make or let other people make entities or atoms for each good song, then you can have them stake. And then you can order it by pretty much however you want. Usually you want, the highest stake that's in support, but there's also a lot more nuance to it than that. There's a lot of things you can do. We'll go into that in a moment. Let's see here. On YouTube, you can tag a channel as, okay, is it funny? Is it misleading? Is it uplifting? Identity verification. This is also interesting. As you start creating the network graph, for lack of a better term, you'll start kind of seeing what's related to what, and you actually kind of start to visually establish it's kind of like a social network, right? It's a network of online entities. How they are related, it depends, right? It depends on what those claims are. Another thing I thought is cool is it's recursive. So you can make a claim like smilingkylan.eth is scammer, right? And then that original 3 can become an atom, and then it can be followed up by is supported by, and then you could submit, for example, proof that the claim is true. So it's recursive. It becomes like some sort of fractal, which is really cool. So here's some examples. Is this wallet legit? You can look at trust scores. You can look at projects, right? Projects will usually be represented, I would think, probably by their website, but there's different ways you can do it. Let's see here. Yeah, I think you kind of get the point there. Okay, so now we're going to actually do the demo. Okay, so are there any questions yet? Because that's kind of a lot conceptually. All right. Okay, so let's see if I can get into it. So let me find, give me one moment to find an address here. So the first thing that I've created is a snap. Okay, so if I open this snap, call it the Hive Mind Snap, and let's say I'm sending currency to somewhere, and I put in this address, and I click continue. If you have the Hive Mind Snap installed, what it's going to do now, right in here, it shows you, okay, this is the address. Is it generally trusted or not trusted? Is the distribution healthy, right? Is it just one whale, or is it concentrated, or is it relatively distributed, right? Because we want to make sure there's not manipulation. We have some data. Okay, people have staked for and against. And this is for the trust for this address. And if I go here, let's see here. I don't know if the I don't know if the production version is working perfectly right now, but so this is a web application. It's kind of like a trust explorer, if you will. So we have that address, right? Oh, excuse me. We have that address. Okay, it's a smart contract, so it uses the chain agnostic version for security reasons. And you say, okay, the hashtag trustworthy, and you can say, I agree with this. We'll do one. Okay, we'll stake. Oh, missing required data. Okay, well, this is not working at the moment, but I think you guys kind of get the general idea. You'll stake there, and then that'll cause the actual data itself to update live, right? Which is nice. Let's see here. Okay, so that's the snap, and then you kind of see the explorer. Yeah. You also have the ability to add an alias. So something like a smart contract, 0xc, da 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 da. That's not human readable, right? So adding something that's more like, I can say intuition multi-vault smart contract, something like that. So when it comes to cryptocurrency addresses, I think this is great. I think if you go on this Explorer, you can actually look at other claims too. So this is all the claims for, all the positions for this address hashtag trustworthy. Just so you know, things like hashtag trustworthy, after a while, we kind of reach convention within the community of kind of which atoms we want to use to represent what type of data. So you have to reach conventions more or less because you want it to be cross platform. You want other apps to be able to use it. So if I go here, you can see other triples. Somebody hashtag interests. Yeah, you kind of see this. So there is activity on the Intuition chain. It's still young. It only launched a couple months ago. Let's see here. It should show my positions as well, which is kind of cool. So, okay, so you get that point. So the stuff I've been working on latest, because that was the snap. So I have a browser extension. And let's say I look up an address. And one thing we're trying to figure out is what's the best way to let users know that we have data on something without distracting them too much and in a performant way. So like when someone, obviously, and there's privacy concerns here too. So I want to make sure I'm aware, everyone knows I'm aware that as I release stuff and as I talk with the community, I'll get a better idea of what's they think is acceptable versus not acceptable. But so if I look at this address and I hover, I see this number 3 right there. If I click that number 3, this will come out just like that. Okay, so what it does is it looks, are there atoms for this specific string, like this address? And if there is, it uses a little like ident icon, just like MetaMask. But you can see claims that we've made here. So this is not, oops, excuse me. So I got to turn something off here. So this is not the final design. I have a designer who I've contracted we're going to be working on this part a lot. Figuring out how to compress this data in a way that's useful for users without being confusing is a bit of a challenge. So I was originally thinking of doing like a violin graph or tornado chart. My thinking now, though, is that I think charts should be left on the Explorer, right? So your normal user for this might not need to know all this data. They'll just want to know generally, is it trustworthy or not? So that's addresses, which is cool. And then if I go and just go to Etherscan, you see that it sends a query for that domain and it tells me, oh, is this domain trustworthy or not? And then the coolest part, this is actually why I built this, was if I go here and I refresh here. So if I'm on Twitter, I can have it scan for tweets and see if there's any claims about people. So if there's not, you get this little quote. So like if I close that, there's this little quote. I open it, it'll ask me if I want to make a claim about this person. Say, oh, trustworthiness, yeah, support, oppose, whatever the case may be. It'll create the atoms. Yeah. And then it'll create the claims with those atoms. This is Josh D. Rowe. So now if I go to Josh D. Rowe, now there is data about that person being trustworthy, right? And if someone already does have claims about them, so I use Elon Musk as my example. Again, you can be scrolling and look, there's 2 claims about him. I click on that, boom, there's Elon Musk's social media account. This is dummy data. This isn't even real, so I don't want you guys to think it's real. But yeah, so you're able to make claims about people. People can quickly see what the public thinks. And yeah, I mean, since we have on the blockchain, we have so much data. We have the position data. After a while, we can start figuring out, we can start essentially creating a reputation system. And even the cool thing too is if I tag people as trustworthy, then all of a sudden we can start using that as a preference. So I can start showing, did my friends think this person was trustworthy or not? Because there's kind of this thesis that perhaps trust is more like a lens, right? Do you trust something based on a specific viewpoint? Like if I'm a scammer, I might trust the scam company that I work for. But if I'm a normal user, I'm not going to trust that scam company. So, and that's an extreme example, but I think that kind of gives you a rough idea of what I mean by that. Okay, so I think that's pretty much it. That's my demo. Do you guys have any questions? Does this make sense? I guess is my big question.
Okay, the first question is, what does a snap look like when there's someone who's not trusted?
Yeah, so these things tend not to show. Okay, yeah, let me see if I can do it that way. So if I wanted, the tricky thing is I can't put in a fake address because I think MetaMask chokes on it. Let's see here. So let me see. This isn't fully random, but this might show slightly different. Okay, so you can see, okay, like the distribution is whale, so that's slightly different. And yeah, if I do a random one, and obviously there's a lot we can do there. I mean, there's a good amount we can do for snaps, but they are somewhat limited as well. So like unknown address, right? Yeah. So we say, okay, create trust claim, and that'll take you here to create it. I've been pushing the snaps team to try to make it so that I can actually create transactions from within the snap, but I have a feeling that's probably further off, right? Because I don't like the idea that they have to go to this website. But yeah, let's see here. I can make a trust claim. So let's make a trust claim and just see. Hopefully my localhost version works. And right, you can kind of have it say anything. We have to take some heuristics a little bit because we need to kind of simplify things for the user, right? Okay. Boop. Create atom. We're rejecting that one. Yeah, and the cool thing too is also looks at the host. See, that's why I was asking about the host, is because not just the address that you're interacting with, but the DApp website is relevant. So that can have its own reputation, right? So now if I go here, for this, oops, great, 0x811. Almost there. Okay. Yeah, so now it is on the trusted side, but the distribution is bad. And obviously we can tweak how that's presented. This is just kind of the first version of the snap. I haven't even released the link to the public, right? So yeah, I don't know. I'm open to feedback. If there's something you think we could present better, I'm open to it.
Next question is, could a wallet integrate this reputation system?
Yeah, and we tried to. The good thing is it's decentralized, right? It's very decentralized. It still has to prove itself. And yeah, I mean, hopefully it does prove itself. And one thing, I was thinking too is at some point, I don't know how much revenue it would generate, but MetaMask could let people create these claims or vote in one way or another from within MetaMask and take a percentage, right? So theoretically, it could be an income generating channel at some point. Um, yeah. Or any other questions? Is it confusing at all? Go ahead.
Okay. And the next question is, in the Snap, who specifically is it saying is trusted?
So when we say trusted, this is about the address that you're interacting with. So when I said I was going to send to 0x, or no, excuse me, to this wallet, then it looks for claims about that address. Trust just means, and again, I'm using heuristics, so I have to kind of rough ball it because we don't have a lot of space. With snaps, there's only so much I can do. Um, but trusted just means right now, I think it just means generally whether it's like if it's a certain portion of the stake is in the for trusted, like supports trust versus in the against, right? So I don't know if it's at 50% or if it needs to be above 50%. But this way it tells you which way is the stake going. And then of course the distribution is kind of your indicator of, okay, is this being manipulated? How much veracity does this data have? This is really difficult right here. Coming up with a way to kind of sum up whether something is trustworthy or not, it's a challenge, and you have to kind of do estimates. And I have a feeling that if this turns into any sort of success, probably a large portion of my work will be to have a proprietary algorithm that does a good enough job of telling you whether the claim data is good or not. Right, and one thing that the cool thing is a lot of this also and the indexers are done through GraphQL. So on the front end, we can actually give the user a lot of options on how to filter this data. So I can have it instead say something, only look at data from from accounts who I've already tagged as trusted, right? So I say, so and so has tagged trustworthy, because not just are you making the claim, but there's meaning to that claim. Not just are you saying they're trustworthy, you're specifically saying that you trust that person. So on chain, this is kind of cool as well because you start to build up almost like a profile of yourself. So it's Kylan likes, uh, you know, um, Muse, some band, some rock band. Oh, Kylan doesn't trust this person, or Kylan, someone attests that Kylan worked here or there. So it starts to build almost like a profile of you. And as you get more data, yeah, you're going to be able to kind of look. Like, imagine I could have the query. GraphQL is so flexible. I could have the query say, "Oh, only tell me." Um, Only look at data or positions on this claim for accounts that are older than 90 days or have more than 3 transactions to them. There's just a lot that you can do, because it kind of becomes this big open web of information. So that's one of the cool things. Users are going to be able to customize kind of their own quote unquote algorithms a lot. At least that's how I see it going. Yeah.
Next question is, could I tag somebody for making AI content?
Yeah. So one thing I created too is, yeah, we can kind of whitelist certain claims. So like trustworthiness, credibility, humor. I added one for AI slop. So you could just tag someone, hey, I think your stuff is AI slop. I'm not gonna do that because I don't know if that person actually does AI slop. But yeah, it's very versatile, right? So I'm excited about the way it's architected. I think it is. You pretty much can make a claim about anything. One thing I should mention too is, in the end, making claims about like someone's social media account is one way to do it. Uh, the big question, ultimately, you kind of want to tie it to an actual identity, right? So not https://josh_d_row. You want there to be an entity for this actual person's the actual person, right? And the idea is that anything that is related to him, we will be able to connect them. So we can say John Rowe owns https://josh row or whatever. Um, right now, I'm holding off on tying things to people's actual identity because a part of me is a little concerned that you could start having like really personal information on there. Like you could have like a stalker or something. So I'm hesitating to add that sort of functionality just yet. I think we need to discuss it more with the public and kind of think about what the risks are there. Does that make sense? Okay. Well, I figure while I have you guys, I might as well say, so if you want to find out more, let's see here. While I have you on video, while I have this on video, LinkedIn, company, hivemindhq.io, I think is what it is. So it's on LinkedIn. I haven't posted much. Or like on x.com, hivemindhq_io. I'm on there. You guys know me on LinkedIn, so I'm easy to find there. And yeah, I think I already mentioned it to some of you guys. I got a grant. So the Intuition team, they gave me a grant. I won a grant. A few people I think won a grant, but I won a grant. So that's kind of why I made the decision to step away from consensus and really give this a go. It's enough where I think I can get it. No, I think we're about to get it over the finish line. Like the snap's pretty much ready. Yeah, the web app itself isn't the prettiest thing in the world, but that's mostly for power users anyway. And then the extension itself, I think, is like the magnum opus. That's the killer feature, I think. And I'm working practically full time with a designer now to get that over the finish line. And I think probably within the next couple months we'll do a marketing push and a launch. So you want to wait long to get closure on whether this will be a success or not. Hopefully that'll be happening. We'll get those answers soon. So yeah, thanks for checking out my demo. Again, I'm Kylan Hurt, and this is Hive Mind.
To find out more, go to hivemindhq.io.